imagine sweating until you died? That's right, today we're going to be talking about the sweating sickness. Hello and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new here. I'm Lexi, aka the Historical Nurse. On this channel we dig up the strangest, wildest and most jaw-dropping moments in nursing and medical history. From weird diseases to lethal substances and strange medical conditions. Or if you just like weird stuff, you're in the right place. It came out of nowhere. It struck fast, killed within hours, and then vanished just as quickly. The sweating sickness terrified Tudor England. Even kings fled from it. But what exactly was it? A lost virus, a medieval bioweapon, or something we still don't understand? This is the strange and deadly story of the sweating sickness. The year was 1485 as Henry Tudor landed in England to claim the throne from Richard III. Another invader arrived with him, a new and terrifying illness. Fun fact, Richard used this excuse as to do propaganda against Henry VII, saying he shouldn't be king because he brought this deadly illness to England. So, fun fact for you there.
Please, Spock, do me a favor, and don't say it's fascinating. No. But it is interesting.
The disease would sweep through cities in waves, disappear for years, and then return without warning. So, surprisingly, this has been very well documented in history, so physicians at the time recorded it very carefully. The illness had no rash, like the plague, and no pustules like smallpox. Symptoms included onset of sudden chills,
so cold,
your lips are turning blue,
intense sweating, racing heart, fever and chest tightness and chest pain, and a deep, unshakable anxiety, often described as a sense of death. Some patients died within 3 to 6 hours. If you survived 24 hours, your chances improved, but those who died often did so suddenly and even mid-conversation. How weird would that be? Imagine you're in mid-conversation and then, bam, the person in front of you just drops. How weird would that be? One of the most well-known and famous people to die, to have sweating sickness and thankfully not die, is Anne Boleyn, Henry VIII's second wife. So Anne Boleyn contracted the sweating sickness in, God, really testing my history now. When did Anne Boleyn have the sweating sickness? 1528. There you go. So, Anne Boleyn, Henry's wife, contracted the sweating sickness in 1528, and she quarantined herself in Hever Castle. And thankfully, she survived. Now, I think this is actually quite sad, really, because to think that she survived one of the most deadliest illnesses in medieval history, to then go married and be beheaded by the king. I think it's very ironic and very sad, and I do feel bad for Anne Boleyn. But anyway, we're going off on a tangent. The sickness came in 5 major waves: 1485, 1508, 1517, 1528, and 1551. During the outbreaks, cities like London would empty out. King Henry VIII reportedly fled London multiple times to escape it. But Henry was a big germaphobe. He wouldn't just leave London. He would sleep in a different bed every night. He would have his sheets washed every day, which during the medieval times was actually very abnormal. Henry was such a germaphobe. He was so terrified of catching illness. He escaped and would not come back until the city was clean again. But yes, but we all love Henry VIII, don't we? He isn't If I could swear, I would. I don't know why I'm doing that. But there you go. Even royal servants and noble families weren't safe from this disease. In 1528, the outbreak spread rapidly throughout Oxford and Cambridge, killing scholars and clergy alike. See, what is strange about this disease is a lot of diseases like this would mainly affect the poor and the peasants because they drank dirty water, didn't eat necessarily good food, lived in horrible conditions, and generally were very vulnerable to disease and famine, where the rich lived in slightly better conditions and ate slightly better food, and generally didn't drink water. They tended to drink ale because water wasn't safe to drink. But the sweating sickness actually mostly affected the wealthy and middle classes, rarely the poor. It also stayed mostly within England. With the 1528 epidemic, it briefly spread to Northern Europe before dying out again. But why did it mainly affect England? So what was it? There are a few leading theories, but none of them are conclusive, really. So one modern theory is the hantavirus. Again, not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's a rodent-borne virus that is found in the droppings and urine of mice and rats. It gives you symptoms such as shortness of breath, chest pain, fever, could also lead to renal failure and multiple organ failure, and it would also cause a rapid death. You didn't survive very long when you had it. But why would it vanish from England? You know, England had rats and mice throughout all of it, so why did it suddenly disappear? And surely Europe have rice and mats as well? Rice and mats. Mice and rats, so why was it not spreading out through more of Europe? Others suggest maybe anthrax from contaminated wool, or relapsing fever carried by lice. But again, the pattern and the selectivity in victims doesn't quite match. So if it was from the wool or lice, surely more of the poor peasants would be affected rather than the rich and the rich and the wealthy. Could it have been psychological? Some kind of mass panic-induced illness? Probably not, because it wouldn't cause fevers and death. Could it be the flu? Flu has been around for centuries. It's not a new illness. It's been around for centuries, and the most common reason people would die of the flu was the fever. So as long as you kept the fever down, most people would survive the flu back in the day. Obviously, flu is not as bad as it is now. Well, it's not as bad now as it was back then, because there was no treatment for it back then. Could it be COVID? A lot of people think COVID is a new disease after the pandemic, but actually COVID's been known throughout. It's not a new disease. It's a very, it's an old disease like flu, because COVID is basically just a cold, really. It's a viral illness like flu that's been around for years. It just hasn't really affected us until now, really. Could it be some sort of dysentery? Food poisoning, maybe, since it affected the rich and the wealthy? So could it be contaminated alcohol? Contaminated food? Now, I'm just putting theories out here. Please let me know what you think in the comments, what you think might have caused the sweating sickness. I'm just coming up with some theories. So the last known outbreak, especially in England, was in 1551, and then it just simply disappeared. Vanished from history without explanation. But today there is no preserved tissue or bodies for us to actually examine as to how or why people died and what the sweating sickness was. So it's a medical mystery, frozen in time. But could it return? If it was a zoonotic virus, so that's a disease that jumps from animals to humans, it's entirely possible. I mean, we've seen similar reemergences, such things like SARS, COVID, monkeypox, and obviously the plague was from rats. You know, the lice and the fleas would bite the rats and transfer the disease onto humans. So it's entirely possible, but who knows? I'm very interested to see what you guys think. So what causes sweating sickness? What are your main theories? It's one of history's unsolved mysteries that we may never know. It's a fast killer, a phantom disease, without a warning, and then just goes away. I don't know why I'm whispering. God, I'm in a funny mood today. So if you enjoyed this deep dive into this strange medical history, hit like and subscribe, and tell me what you think in the comments. What strange disease or medical history did you want me to cover next? Or tell me what you think of the sweating sickness. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and stay healthy. Bye!